And we're live. Welcome, everyone, once again to another episode of our chat streams. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. Not a lot going on here. If you hear some noise in the background, it's raining pretty hard. But that's all right because it's actually been really dry here, so we kind of needed it. Let's see. Packux, hello. I'm sure I'm probably saying that wrong, but Scott Meyer says good morning. Good morning to you. That good, I don't know. Good. Hello. Packux says good. Oh, I got it right. Very good. I'm always a little bit nervous with some of the screen names. I'm glad to see everybody showed up this morning. I was joking with Artblade in the comments, and I said I was afraid everybody was going to forget to set their clocks back an hour and no one would show up. Packux says no worries. Good, thanks. I don't know. I saw a headline. I don't know if it was true or if it was just something someone posted that Michael J. Fox died, and that was kind of sad if it's true. It seems like every week we have somebody I grew up watching on TV dying. I remember watching him in Family Ties. Ramcross says that's why you hit that reminder. Yep, but not everybody hits it, so it can be worrisome. Packard says it's my first time where you and I have a few things to tell you. Oh, it's my first time here with you, and I have a few things to tell you. Oh, good. I'm curious to see what you have to say. Yeah. I think my favorite scene with Michael J. Fox was from the first Back to the Future where he's playing Johnny B. Good on stage. I always wondered if he actually could play the guitar or if that was just movie magic. I see we've got 7 people watching right now. That's a good start. Oh, before I forget, I wanted to tell you guys that my motion comic has been pushed back. My effort that I was having wasn't going very well, so I found a guy on Fiverr to make one for me. So hopefully that'll turn out well. Packard says, "Thanks for all your stories that you bring to life." Yes. Oh, you're welcome. It's always great when people listen and read my stuff. A lot of fun hearing from you guys. Do you have a favorite series? Let me know. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the motion comic. I found somebody I thought could do a better job than I could. What I was putting together was kind of a mess, so hopefully what he does will be better. But it's going to delay it by a couple of months. So Global Hoppy says, "I'm here, Yee. Yeah, great to have you. Thanks so much for stopping by." And just a reminder to everybody, next week at 4:00, my narrator Joe Hempel will be joining us, so that should be fun. Packer says, "I listened to all the Portal War saga in 1 week. It's an amazing story." Yeah, wow, that's a lot of listening. 7 books, and they're all around 6+ hours. So, wow, that's a lot. I'm very impressed that you made it through the whole thing in a week. Ramcross says, I'm halfway through book 4 of the Portal Wars, and it's an amazing work. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're enjoying the series. Oh, Packuk says it was addictive. Well, that's good. That's the one thing every author likes to hear is I kept him up at night reading or listening to my stories. So great to hear you were enjoying it. I had somebody ask me in the comments. I forget if it was which episode it was. They wanted me to, do a detailed breakdown of what I do for an audiobook to make one. But the truth is, it's, for me at least, once I finish the manuscript, it goes off to Joe and he does all the work, and I get finished files back and upload them. And, my part of it's, once the writing's done, my part of it is pretty much over with. We're up to 11 watching. Hello to the new arrivals, whoever you may be, if I haven't seen your name pop up yet on the chat. I'm about, as far as my writing at the moment goes, I'm about 10,000 words away from finishing the first book in the new trilogy I'm working on, the spin-off trilogy. Byron Harris says, I dig all the books. I listen to them throughout the day. I swear they get me through my work days. Well, that's good. A lot of people listen, it seems like when they're at work. So that's very cool. I love hearing what people do. Ramcross says, you do really great work of balancing character power in your books. I never feel like they are min-maxed. There are always flaws. Yeah, it's tricky making sure your characters don't get so strong that nothing can challenge them. That's one of the reasons I stopped writing new Soul Force saga novels. I made Damien so strong that it was hard to come up with a challenge for him that wasn't like him fighting an archangel or something like he did in the last book of the series. Packuk says, third Otto, what an amazing character. And after the 7 books, it just seemed to be the beginning of his journey. Yeah, Otto had quite a journey. He really followed an arc of starting very low and building up and turning kind of evil and then finding his way back a little bit. He's enjoying a nice vacation reading books right now in his many libraries. But eventually, I'm sure something will happen to get him back in the action as soon as I think of it. Yeah, the story I'm working on now is set in Colt's Land, after the Chamber of Eternity storyline. So it's a pretty fun story. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And the new series that's coming out in January, Joe has recorded 4 out of 5 books, and next week he's going to start the 5th one. So that's coming along nicely. I've got to get to work on getting the Kickstarter ready for January launch. So lots and lots of stuff to do. Plus, we got holidays coming. I don't know if you guys are into the Christmas and, decorating and all that stuff, but it's not something I usually do too much of. I just kind of glide through the whole thing and not worry about it. Let's see. Speaking of balancing the power of my characters in the books, that was a tricky one for The Ages of Merlin, my urban fantasy series. Connery is starting to get a little bit overpowered, so that's why I had to bring in worshippers of the demon lords for him to fight. But that's going pretty well. I'll actually, when I finish this trilogy, I'll be starting the 12th book in that series. So that should be fun. It's always nice to get back to even numbers. I can make another omnibus. I can have another 4-book omnibus once that's done. So that'll be good. Okay, so I thought it might be fun this week to try it with me asking you guys a question to see what you think about something. And it's just random things that were crossing my mind. I was listening this morning to the Sign of the Southern Cross on a YouTube video, and I wondered what everyone's favorite Black Sabbath singer was, Ozzy or Ronnie James Dio. For me, it's Ronnie James Dio. I know that's probably not going to be a popular opinion, but I always thought Dio had a better voice than Ozzy. He's almost operatic the way he sang. Sharky Shark comes us here. He says, "Ask away, please." All right. Ramcross says Ronnie James Dio. Yep. Another. Oh, Global Hoppy says Ronnie, of course. Yep. I don't know if any of you guys saw they did a show at Radio City Music Hall. They recorded it. That was an amazing concert. I forget where I saw it, but I have the CD over on my collection. They did some great songs on that, and Tony's playing was off the charts great. So it was a really good one. If you haven't seen it, I think you can find some of it on YouTube. Okay. Next question. Science fiction or fantasy? Which do you guys prefer? I'm a fantasy guy all the way. Epic fantasy, specifically. I also like urban fantasy and I guess we call it portal fantasy. They call it isekai fantasy over in Japan, where regular people get sent to a fantasy world. Packuk says fantasy. Beldrian22 says finished the last book in the Portal War saga a week ago. I really enjoyed the end of it. That's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Global Hop, he says emotions are so hard to write when you're not actually feeling them. Yeah, the trick is to kind of put yourself in the head of the character rather than what you're feeling yourself and focus on what they're feeling. So it isn't easy though. It definitely isn't. Sharky Sharkum says, "Can I choose both?" Yeah, absolutely. I like both as well. Epic fantasy and I would say space opera probably are my two favorite genres. Ramcross says fantasy all the way. Very good. Brendan Parker says fantasy for books, sci-fi for movies and TV series. Yeah, I can see that. It's really hard to translate fantasy well onto the screen. When it's done well, it's amazing, but sci-fi does seem to turn out a lot better. Artblade says usually sci-fi, but got into fantasy some more, and I played no small part in it. Well, that's good. I'm glad I could get you into more fantasy. I appreciate it. You saying that. Byron Harris says, I actually like it when they merge the two. Yes, space fantasy is a lot of fun. That's like Star Wars. You got wizards in space. Global Hoppy says, half and half, really. I love some crossplay. Oh, good. Nice to know we've got some space fantasy fans out there. I've actually got an idea for a science fantasy series, so it's good to know that there's at least a few people that would enjoy it. Baldrian22 says, hard to say what I like them most. I really like historical novels, fantasy, sci-fi, action novels, and crime. Yeah, I like historical novels too. I've got a bunch of them on the shelf behind me there. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head, but I've got a bunch of his historical novels. One of them followed a longbowman during the War of the 40 Years War, or 100 Years War, I mean, or War of the Roses. I can't remember which one it was, but that was a good series. If you're into historical television, what was that? There was a historical one set during the Napoleonic War I really enjoyed. with Sean Bean was the star, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. Byron Harris says, I was hoping you would say that about space fantasy. Yes. I haven't really done too much on it yet, but I do have an idea that I want to explore. What was the name of that show? That's the Bernard Cromwell is brilliant. Yes, that's who I was thinking of. Bernard Cromwell. He wrote that book about the longbowmen. Yes, it was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed. I think I've got at least half a dozen of his books. I know there's a lot more, but I've got so many books to read now. Getting to them all, I got to put some kind of a dent in my to be read list before I start buying more books. And as you can see behind me, I'm running out of shelf space anyway. God, what's that guy's name? I'll maybe think about something else and it'll come to me. Is there any shows coming up that you guys are particularly excited about? There's a on Crunchyroll. I think there's 4 or 5 episodes out now about a new anime about ninjas that looks pretty good. Sean B. Yes, Sharp. That was what it was. The Sharp novels were turned into. It was a TV series, but it was actually more like a bunch of made-for-TV movies. Each one was about an hour and a half long. I watched all of those. They were really good. Global Hoppy says, I honestly think the world as a whole is moving towards a more sci-fi fantasy interest, especially since Marvel and DC combined them in the movies. Yeah. The Avengers especially was had some magic in it later on with Doctor Strange. Baldrian 22 says, I think I at least read one about it. In the longbowman ended up capturing a lord on the battlefield and also married the lord's daughter that was not from his wife. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's the one. I can't remember the name of it, but they had really short names, just one-word names, as I recall. Global Hoppy says Overlord. Yes, that's a great anime. I don't know when the next season of that'll come out. Because they just caught up with the last light novel. The last season caught up with where the light novels were. So I imagine it'll be a couple of years before another season comes out. Pakuk says, more or less, the ninja story seems rushed. Oh, well, that's disappointing. But I usually wait until the whole series is out and then binge them. I'm watching Tales of the Abyss right now, and it's pretty good. I think I'm on episode 17. I'm also reading Tyrant Star, I think was the name of it. It's a Vampire Hunter D series. I want to say book 15 and 16, but don't quote me. I think that's almost 30 books in that series now. Brandon Parker says, the new series of Good Omens is coming. Not sure how that will go, as there was not a second book, and really the first series followed the book really well. Yeah, that can be, when they start going off on their own, they can get into trouble. I think of the last, was it the last 2 seasons or the last season of Game of Thrones, where they stopped following George's books and it completely went off the rails. Baldrian 22 says, one fantasy book series that the film producers slaughtered completely was Aragon. Slaughtered it so badly they didn't even attempt to do the other books. Yeah, I've heard bad things about that. I haven't actually watched it, but yeah, from what I heard, it was a mess. Bad enough that I didn't want to watch it, to be honest with you. I think the best adaptation, live action adaptation I've seen is as Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. I thought he did a really good job on that. I know Tolkien's son thought he cut too much stuff out, but I really thought it conveyed the story well. Packhook says, of course. Of course it was rushed, or yeah. Pacing is tricky, especially when you're translating something like a book into a movie. It's so much easier to you give the internal monologue and stuff, and you have a lot more pages to work with. You don't have to worry about taking stuff out. Baldwin 22 says, if it wasn't based on a book, it would have been good, but being based on a book series, it's really bad. They changed a lot that completely messed up the next movie series, etc. Packard says, Lord of the Rings best adaptation. Yeah, I think so. Definitely the best I've seen. Global Hop E says, I watched Aragon before I read it, and the faces stuck with me the whole time. Yeah, sometimes it's actually better to watch the movie and then read the novel. I did that with some of the Star Wars movies, the early ones, the prequel, I guess. And yeah, you can always see the characters more clearly in your mind. Of course, it also cuts out some of your imagination, so it's kind of a balancing act depending on what you prefer. Terry Brooks, actually, I don't know if you guys know, but he wrote the novelization for The Phantom Menace. It was really quite good. I'd say it was better than the movie. Especially liked it because the first chapter of the novelization wasn't in the movie, and it showed how Anakin ended up getting the part that they would need to fix the ship, that they traded Watto for. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Bulgarian says, I'm a Star Wars Legends fan, not so much of canon. Yeah, I'm a huge Legends fan. I've got, you probably can't see them behind me, but there's at least 3 shelves of, I think I've got all the Legends novels. Yeah, I couldn't believe they had all those great books to draw from, and Disney decided to just do their own thing. I thought that was just the dumbest decision to just say, wipe out 20 years of great stories and just tell everyone, well, those stories you loved? What are you going to do? They're not really Star Wars anymore. Matthew E. Adcock says, I read Aragon before I watched it. I was livid, could not finish the movie. Yeah, that seems to be a common reaction to it. I'm glad I didn't bother to watch it, because that was that came out quite a few years ago. So I imagine the special effects and stuff weren't the best. Although some of the modern special effects aren't all that great either. You get the worlds are too shiny and perfect looking instead of kind of battered and lived in, which is the style I prefer more myself. Yeah. Back to the Star Wars thing. I actually think the best ending for the Skywalker clan was the comic book they did. I forget the name of it, but I think it was around 100 years, set 100 years after A New Hope, and it had Luke Skywalker's grandson, and how the new Sith Empire rose and all that. That was a really good comic. Can't think of the name of it though, unfortunately. Not sure what it is about these live streams, but my brain seems to freeze up when I try and think of names of things. If I had some idea what I was going to talk about ahead of time, I'd write it down so I didn't forget. But I suppose that's part of the fun. That and scrambling to get my microphone to work. I had to unplug it and plug it back in like 5 times before I finally started registering. I wasn't sure I was going to make it. I only had 2 minutes to spare before I finally got it to work. The Sith Lord was Darth Krayt. Yes, I remember that part. He was one of the cooler ones. He was a former Jedi that lived with the Tusken Raiders on Tatooine. Global Hoppy says, my favorite kids novel, Artemis Fowl, was ruined by the Disney movie. They totally botched it. Colfer gave so much away to see his work put on screen. Yeah, I've never read or watched either one of those. But yeah, it sucks when they mess it up so bad. Baldrian says he also helped Luke against Abeloth. Yeah, I remember that. Sort of in spirit form when they fought her in what series did they fight her in? One of the really late ones. Maybe the last long series they did. But yeah, I remember that. That was when he was in hiding on Korriban, I think. Looks like the rain stopped and I'm going to get some sunshine now. Let's see, what's next? Paco says, I know, I'm afraid they will redo Percy Jackson. Yeah. Baldwin Chinese is the last book, I think. I don't think it was the very last Legends book. The very last one was, I think, right after the battle with Abeloth, where I forget what happened. There was a big explosion on one of Lando's mining operations or something. I forget just exactly what it all was. Packer says, I know. I'm afraid. Oh, yeah, I did that one already. Sorry. Sharky Sharkum says, I'm in North Texas and I'm disappointed the rain stopped. LOL. Yeah. I imagine it's been dry down there too because it's been dry here. Brennan Parker says, his Dark Materials series has been good, but it may just seem that way after the movie. Yeah, I haven't watched that one either. I don't really watch all that much TV. I remember I read the books though. The books were quite good. I read them ages ago. Baldrian 22 says, well, I'm off to start some dinner. All right. I appreciate you stopping in. Have a good evening. Always fun to talk Star Wars with somebody. Let's see. Oh, for anyone that just joined, don't forget next week will be me and Joe, my narrator, live streaming together. So, Packuk says, do I have any more questions? Yeah, I completely forgot what I was doing. I got off on a Star Wars tangent. Let's see. Global Hoppy, what's your favorite? Hey, that's a good question. What's your favorite Sith Lord? For me, it's Revan. I thought he was probably the best Sith Lord as far as I was concerned. What about you guys? Ramcross says he does enjoy Joe. He's great. Yeah, Joe's a great narrator. I think he's done like 40. I want not 40. 30. 32 of my novels. So yeah, and he's doing another 5 right now. So definitely. Packuk says Sith Lord ? The Sith Lords are the evil version of Jedi in Star Wars, like the Emperor and Darth Vader. They're Sith Lords. Darth Zana is a good one too. I think the Old Republic had some really cool Sith Lord characters. Yeah, definitely. Those two are my favorites. No, I'm asking if yes, absolutely. I'd love to hear what you guys' favorite Sith Lords are. Yes. I was Global Hoppy did that, but that's a great one to. Sorry. Oh, no problem. Though. No need to apologize. I just misunderstood. Easy to do with these little short blocks of text. So don't give it another thought. Matthew says, "Don't mind me. I'm just listening to the chat while I'm driving. I won't be texting anymore." Oh, that's good. Definitely don't want you texting and driving. That's a good way to get into trouble. So stay safe. I'm glad you could stop in, even though you're on the road. I wonder if at least a few people forgot to change their clock. So let's see. We've only got 10 watching. Probably not. Just busy. This time of year definitely gets busy, especially if you have a family and you got your Thanksgiving's coming up in 2 weeks, and you got your Christmas and all that stuff. Oh, that's a good question. What's your favorite holiday? Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, or something else? For me, it's Christmas, just because I like The Christmas Carol. That's probably my favorite. Brandon Bonkai Hadukin says Darth Nihilus is his favorite. Yeah, that's a cool one too. Definitely another good one from the Old Republic. Sharky Sharkum says, "I'm disappointed there are not any buxom, beautiful female Sith Lords." Yeah, there actually is. The one we were talking about earlier, the comic book. There's a Twi'lek, red-skinned Twi'lek Sith Lord who's definitely fits your description. Packard says, "Mine is Christmas and my birthday, I suppose." Yeah, birthdays are always good too. Not that I don't celebrate mine anymore. I'm too old. Global Hoppy says, "What's your favorite power source?" Like for magic and books, or Halloween. Christmas used to be my favorite until I worked at a retail store for Christmas. Yeah, I can totally see that. I wouldn't want to be working on at a retail store at Christmas time. I mostly do my shopping if I have to do any online. I'm not a big fan of crowds. Sharky Sharkum says, "I'm going to have to check her out, LOL." Yeah. Darth Talon? I think it was Darth Talon. I'll have to see if I can find a picture of her and share it with you guys. Big Pete says, "Ha, I'm here." All right, I'm glad you made it today. Ramcross says, "Other people's birthdays." Yeah, it can be fun to celebrate other people's birthdays. Parkuk says, "I did not read anything from Star Wars. I was only the games, movies, and series." Oh, you're missing out if you don't read Star Wars novels, especially Legends. They're really good. So if you're ever looking for something other than mine, of course, to read, I definitely recommend the Star Wars Legends novels. Baldrin 22 says, "Christmas year in the 17th of May." I'm from Norway, so is the 17th of May a holiday in Norway? Patrick says, "The games are my canon," and he likes Starkiller. Yeah, Starkiller's cool too. He pulled it was Starkiller that pulled the whole Star Destroyer out of orbit and crashed it, right? I'm pretty sure it was. Keith says, "I like the Easter holiday because it's the start of summer in the UK." Yeah, Easter's interesting one. Baldrian22 says it's our national day, May 17th. Oh, that's very cool. I had no idea. Pat Cook says, yep. So it was Starkiller that pulled the Star Destroyer out of orbit. That's a little bit of an overpowered trick, I have to say, but still very cool. What was I? Just a second, guys. I'm gonna go see if I can find a picture of Darth Talon to show you for Sharky Sharkums. I'll be right back. I couldn't find the right book, but I did find Cade Skywalker and his team. I don't know how well you can see it here, but Baldrian22 is one of my favorite. Is Darth Caedus. Oh, and Darth Revan from the Rule of Two era. I think it's Darth Bane. Yeah, Darth Bane was cool. I don't know if you read the Darth Bane trilogy, but I liked the last book with in his fight with Zana. That was a very cool fight, I thought. Artblade says Star Wars. I still remember the huge queue all the way around the block. I think Star Wars changed just about everything. I think George Lucas Industrial Lights and Magic and its impact on any movie henceforth. Yeah, for sure. Especially this Industrial Lights and Magic. They've done some amazing work. Big Pete says, do you know anything about the Black Rat Inn here on YouTube? I've been listening to a lot of stuff on there. Quite good. I don't. I know you have to be kind of careful. You don't have to be, but some people aren't all that scrupulous about putting up audiobooks that they don't own the rights to. So just be aware that you may be watching pirated content. So yeah, I have no idea about this particular. I don't know about the Black Rat Inn particularly, but I've seen that happen quite a bit. I semi-regularly have to put up takedown notices. It's just a thing that happens. Sharky Sharkum says, it's cool that I took the time to do that. Yeah, it's not a big deal. The comics are right there on my shelf, so I just went to look. I didn't even find the one I was looking for, but if I can find a good picture of her, I'll share it next time. I still haven't quite figured out how to share my screen in StreamYard. Otherwise, I'd just look it up right now. Sci-Fi Nerd 1911 says, hi, James. Glad I caught the live stream, even though I'm late. LOL. Yeah, I'm glad you could stop by. We're discussing our favorite Sith Lords, so if you want to chime in, I'd love to know, what you think. Baldrian Changes says, I have actually going through it again now. Oh, the Darth Bane trilogy, yes. Big Pete says, I didn't know that. Yeah, about the there's a lot of a lot of audiobooks that are pirated, so it's kind of a shame, but you know. Paco says, "Did you already check out the trailer for the upcoming Dungeons and Dragons movie?" I haven't seen the trailer. I didn't even know there was a Dungeons and Dragons movie coming. I know I saw the one with Jeremy Irons way back, but that was the only Dungeons and Dragons movie I've seen. It was actually not too bad. A little weird, but not bad. Sharky Sharkum says, "I'd be scared and turned on by a hot female Sith Lord." LOL. Yeah. Sci-Fi Nerd 911 says, "Well, I'm a little rusty on my Star Wars. I'm more of a Stargate and Star Trek fan, but I do like Star Wars, and I think Darth Maul was probably my favorite." Yes, Darth Maul was very cool, especially what they did in the Clone Wars to kind of expand his character. They really turned him from just sort of a, throwaway villain in the Phantom Menace into a real interesting character. I thought they did a nice job on expanding who he was, and into the next animated Star Wars series, where he's trying to corrupt the kid. I forget the name of it, but yeah. Ramcross says, "Have you seen any mythical movies? Like ones based on mythology? The 300 is sort of a mythological movie. That was quite good. I enjoyed that. I like the Sinbad and the Sailor movies. Those are slightly mythological." Patrick says, "Which one of your book series did you enjoy to write, or it was easy to write?" I enjoyed all of my series. When I'm writing them, I enjoy it. I've never written a series and been like, God, this sucks. I can't wait to be done with it. I've enjoyed every series I've written while I was doing it. That's my favorite part of what I do, is writing and telling stories and finding out what happens. So I can't say there was one that, was easier to write. I do pretty much the same thing every time. I just have an idea for a character and let it go. Baldwin Train to this Star Wars Rebels. Yes, Star Wars Rebels was where Darth Maul kept showing up. Ramcross says, "Mythica is a series. I would say B movies." Oh, Mythica. I see. Not mythical. My bad. Global Hoppy says, "I enjoy a lot of Critical Role and Dungeons and Dragons type action roleplay. Really gets me in the mood for writing." Yeah. Critical Role. I'm not familiar with Critical Role. Big Pete says, "The Sinbad movies were great. Another imperfect hero. A bit of a vagabond sort of character." Yeah. Sinbad was a little bit of my inspiration for the heroes in the Divine Key trilogy. Robert and Blade. They were sort of a combined Sinbad-esque character, I guess. With Blade being the fighter side of him and Robert being the merchant side. I think Jane Seymour was in one of those Sinbad movies when she was younger. Forget the name of it, though. Big Pete says, "Nice, yep." If I ever, and I don't know that I will, considering how unpopular that trilogy ended up being, but if I ever write a sequel, like a spin-off, it would probably be a lot more Sinbad-esque, since it'll just be the two of them traveling around looking for void artifacts. So at least that's what I was thinking of doing. Where were we? Oh yeah, Star Wars Rebels. I don't think that one was quite as good as the Clone Wars personally, but I did enjoy it. Baldrian22 says, my dinner is slowly finishing. Oven baked salmon. Ooh, I have salmon. Salmon's one of my favorite things. I make salmon packets at least once a week, where you take the salmon and wrap it up with a little olive oil and wrap it up in tinfoil and cook it in the oven. Yeah, that's definitely my favorite lunch. Big Pete says Sinbad traveling, Lord of the Rings, journeying across Middle Earth, etc. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of travel in fantasy. Got to get from point A to point B and save the world, stop the bad guy, and fight things on the way. That's a very simplistic description of pretty much every fantasy story. Although I read one, I forget what it was, but I think it was set all in one city. They still traveled like around the city, but I don't think they left it. Big Pete says, and slay the dragon. Yep, definitely got to slay the dragon, unless it's a nice dragon, and then maybe you'll get to ride it. Packuk says, I like Ezra. I don't know. Maybe I'm a fan of the young character growing and becoming powerful. Yeah, Ezra was a good character too. Sci-Fi Nerd 911 says, have you seen the show called Longmire? Yes, I'm a huge fan. I love Longmire. Right there, right above my finger, is the whole Longmire series. There's a bunch of paperbacks and 3 hardcovers, and yep, it's I really enjoyed it. Walt's quite a good character. Baldrian22 says, one of my favorite fantasy book series is The Wheel of Time. Yep, I've got The Wheel of Time on a shelf back there too. That was a great series, and I think Brandon Sanderson did a really good job, on finishing it up after Robert Jordan died. Although it would have been fun if he had survived to see his take on how he wanted to end it. I always wonder if they're going to end up hiring Brandon to finish Game of Thrones. Big Pete says, yeah, I like the City Blades theme with all its intricacies. City based theme with all its intricacies. Yes, I actually have an idea for a story like that. Something sort of like Thief, the Metal Age, I think is the name of the game. Packuk says, like Otto, if I didn't know Lost when we met him, like 17, and he finishes the series like 20 or 21, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's about right. Big Pete says, go for it. Yeah, on the city-based series. Yeah, it's definitely on my to-do list, but my to-do list is about that thick. So getting to everything is, one of those things. And the problem is, no matter how much you work on your to-do list, it never actually gets smaller because I keep adding things I want to do. Sci-Fi Nerd 1911 says, hell yeah, that's awesome. I would love to see some type of fantasy book series where it's a sheriff and he has to protect his community from fantasy type stuff, whether it's wizards or beasts. Yeah, that would be fun. I always thought a series that was like Conan the Barbarian meets Jack Reacher, where the hero comes into an area, wipes out the bad guys, and moves on to the next area might be kind of fun. Baldrian22 says, I would have liked a book or some epilogue to see what happened to the main characters like 10 years after. For the Portal War saga, I actually I wrote a novella. It's not out yet or anything, but I've been working on it. It's set 10 years after the end of the series, and it sets up both the spin-off trilogy I'm working on now, and it ends with a little check-in on Otto. So when that comes out, you'll get a chance to see a little bit more of what's happening. Baldwin 22 says no, Wheel of Time. Oh, I see. Yeah, that would be kind of fun. It ended, if I recall right, with the three princesses chasing after him after he runs away from after saving the world. So yeah, it would be interesting to see if they catch up to him. Portal would be nice too, of course. Yeah, I appreciate that. What else have we got going here? Baldwin Train says, looking after him, not running after him. Baldwin says, is there a chance of you writing a series about the Arcane Lords? I'm not sure. I'm not planning on any. At least not. I'm planning on writing about worlds that they visited when they were still alive. But I don't really have any intention of writing like a whole series about them. They're too powerful, I think, to make it that interesting. Packhook says a big question, is Abby a magic user? Yeah, I haven't decided that yet. She's not technically actually related to Otto, so. Baldwin says she'd be interesting in a book about the Arcane Lords. We'll see. If I get an idea, I might. Maybe I'd do a short something that sets up their arrival on a new world. And Sci-Fi Nerd 1911 says, what do you think about the Punisher series that came out a few years back? They only had 2 seasons, but it was absolutely amazing. That actor owned the role. Yeah, I enjoyed the Punisher series. I would say it was the best of the Netflix Marvel shows for sure. I definitely enjoyed that. What's that guy's name? Blumenthal, John Blumenthal, or something like that. Yeah, he played the Punisher really well. I also like Thomas Jane's take on the Punisher. Golboppy says, I would love a small story about how petty they are in the Void. Yeah, they're not actually all together in the Void. They're all where they died, so they're not, like in a little group arguing. Sharky Sharkup says, more questions for us, please. We're at 53 minutes and counting, so I'll do one more question for you guys before we wrap this one up. And that is, who is your favorite Punisher actor? John Blumenthal, or I think that's his name, from the Netflix series, Thomas Jane, or Dolph Lundgren? Matthew says, mention The Wheel of Time and liking how Brandon Sanderson finished the books. Have you read anything else from Brandon Sanderson? And if so, what did you like? I have read some other things, and The Mistborn, I think that's what it is, was one of the ones I liked. I haven't read all of his stuff. I find some of it a bit slow for my taste, but I did like the Mistborn series. Packhook says, one of the worlds that would be fun was of the Black Iron. Baldwin 22 says, well, magic do not need to be. No, it definitely doesn't. Not Otto's parents aren't. No, I didn't mean that. I just, as a general thing, it didn't necessarily mean she had to have wizard parents. Brandon Parker says, when the Arcane Lords replace the soul of the ether, does the type of ether affect them, such as if it was dark or more like a demon? No. It doesn't. Generally, if you go that far, you're a little bit dark anyway. So no, the corrupt ether or pure ether doesn't matter. Ramcross says John. Big Pete says Dolph was already superhuman. Yeah. Global Hoppy says John, no contest. Artblade says Thomas Jane. Yeah, I thought Thomas Jane was really good. I would have liked to have seen him make some more movies with him. Packer says the one where they bring a dagger that is immune to magic. Oh yeah, that would be an interesting world to explore. I haven't even thought about that one, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. Fox Toxic says, "Who's the most underrated actor in Hollywood?" Boy, that's tough. Underrated actor. I'm not really sure, to tell you the truth. I have trouble remembering all their names anyway. Clancy Brown. He played the best villain ever. I love Clancy Brown. I don't know that he's underrated though. I think he's pretty highly rated. He's done great work. Which villain did you like best, Pete? I don't know. I'm not sure if you even consider him a villain, but his take on that prison guard in the Shawshank Redemption was pretty good, I thought. And as far as a pure villain goes, his take on the Kurgan was in Highlander. I thought was pretty good too. So yeah, but I definitely wouldn't call him overrated or underrated because I think he's pretty well acknowledged as a great actor. I saw an interview with him not that long ago. Big Pete says yes, it was. Better to burn out than fade away. I don't know. Burning out, at least when writer parlance, is something to be avoided at all costs. Once you burn out, you can't produce any new books for a while, and that's the last thing I'd ever want to have happen. Sci-Fi Nerd says John B. Thomas Jane and Dolph Lundgren, but I think with how better the special effects and the cinema is nowadays, Dolph Lundgren could easily beat John in the Punisher movie show. Yeah, it really aren't a ton of special effects. I don't think in any of the Punisher shows or movies. That's all very, street level. Not a lot of fancy sci-fi fantasy stuff. But yeah, so we're getting close to the 1 hour mark here. So I will say, see you next week. If you have any particular questions for Joe, be sure to think of them and be ready to ask. I know he'll be excited to answer them. For me too. So yeah, it should be fun next week. Definitely looking forward to it. Darren Dominguez popped in. Good to see you. Hello, goodbye. Yeah. And don't forget we start at 4:00 next week with Joe. So that should be, since I've never had a guest before, it should be an adventure. And so until then, I'll say see you next time.